Hi there. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the movies that I'm going to be putting up on my other channel, and also to, ask you if there's any of the movies that I'm going to mention that you would like to be put up next or soonest. Please just let me know, or if there's another movie that's in the public domain that you'd like, I will, put it up there. Now you can go to the it's the Internet Archive, and download or watch movies yourself. But you do have to kind of do a search, and it's a bit of a pain, not much, but I'll be more than happy to put movies up on this other channel of mine, Meleagris Fells. Remember, it's Meleagris Fells, Fells. This channel is Meleagris Felis, Felis. So I'll be happy to put them up there for anyone who wants to watch them. Now, I've already put up The Phantom of the Opera from 1925, and that's a silent movie. I will sometime later put up the 1929 version, which is basically the 1925 version just jazzed up a bit. But I prefer the older 1925 version, which is why I put that up. Currently, right now, I'm uploading House on the Haunted Hill. And this is a 1959 movie starring Vincent Price. And this is a really great movie. And it's a story that you've probably heard before. There's a gentleman offers a number of people $10,000 if they will spend the night in his haunted mansion. And this particular storyline has been used over and over and over again, but I don't know if this is the very first time it's ever been used, but it's definitely a classic use of this storyline, and it's a really great movie, and I would suggest seeing it if you like this sort of thing. It's, suspense. The next one I'm going to put up is The Lost World. It was going to be the next one, but I had problems with my download. For some strange reason, it kept timing out. Anyway, The Lost World is a 1925 silent movie starring Wallace Beery. And this is one of those movies that's been considered of, cultural historical significance by the Library of Congress, and has been selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry. A Phantom of the Opera also has. The Lost World is a very familiar story. I actually have a collection of Lost Worlds. I think I have DVDs or videotape or what downloads of every version of The Lost World that's in the English language, including television shows and movies. And this is a classic movie that dinosaur aficionados really like, because they find this lost world and they find these dinosaurs, and it's it's a great old story. I believe this is the very first movie about the Lost World, which is by a book by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And as I mentioned before, I'm not entirely sure that you'll be able to see this in the British Commonwealth, because I'm not sure of the status of Arthur Conan Doyle's copyrights. Now, another movie is Night of the Living Dead, and this is the original George Romero movie, which somebody accidentally let go into the public domain. And I think everybody knows the story. One thing that was really interesting about this movie when it first came out is a black guy is like the hero. And that was very unusual back then. I think it was 1968. I remember seeing the movie in the drive-in. The friends I was with wouldn't look at certain points. So, good friend that I was staring at the movie and describing exactly what was happening that they didn't want to see. And I also want to put up some old Alfred Hitchcock movies. I'm a huge Hitchcock fan, and there are 3 movies that I know of so far that I want to put up. These are all from, well, 2 of them are from when Hitchcock was still in England. One is early from the United States. One is The 39 Steps, and this is from 1935, and this is loosely based on an adventure novel by the same name. And there are a number of film versions of the book, and this one has been considered the best. And Hitchcock later redid it here in the United States. This is better. Another movie is called The Lady Vanishes, and that's from 1938. And I remember this one. This is an American-made movie, I think. Anyway, I'll have to check that. Anyways, travelers on a trans-European train are delayed for a night due to bad weather in an unnamed country. The passengers cram into the small village hotel, where socialite Iris Henderson meets an old governess called Miss Froy. Shortly after the journey restarts, Miss Froy disappears. Now, I'm quoting here from, I'm not sure. Some of the things I'm quoting from Wikipedia, some from the Internet Archive, and I forgot to write down which is from where, so it's one or the other. Anyway, really good movie. I noticed another one. This is a really early Hitchcock, and it's actually a silent film. And it's called The Lodger, A Story of the London Fog. And it was directed by him in 1926, released in 1927, 1928 here in the United States. It says, the film, based on a story by Marie Belloc Lowndes and a play Who Is He, co-written by Belloc Lowndes, considers the hunt for a Jack the Ripper type of serial killer in London. And it's another really good movie. One of my favorite movies of all time is The Thief of Baghdad from 1924. And this stars Douglas Fairbanks Sr. There were two Douglas Fairbankses. There was Douglas Fairbanks Sr., Douglas Fairbanks Jr., and they were both swashbucklers. As a matter of fact, I think Sr. was probably the very first swashbuckler. If not, he was definitely the height of the swashbucklers. Anyway, it's silent, but the special effects are stunning, especially considering the time it's made. And these are, this was made in, it's basically adapted from 1001 Nights, the story of a thief who falls in love with the daughter of the Caliph of Baghdad. This is another film that was considered culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant by the Library of Congress. And Fairbanks was extremely athletic, and there's gymnastics in this that is almost like dance. And it's the quote here. It says, the use of imaginative gymnastics fit the athletic star. His cat-like, seemingly effortless movements were as much dance as gymnastics, and that is absolutely true. And I wanted to, well, actually, I wanted to mention that, you know, a lot of times people don't watch these old movies. You don't realize just exactly what they were capable of back then. For instance, it's The Thief of Baghdad, the special effects here, and there's stop motion for the dinosaurs in The Lost World, which when you consider when this is made is just really amazing. As is the next movie, The Hunchback of Notre Dame from 1923. This is another silent. If they're silence, I'll say they're silence. If I don't say they're silence, they aren't. And the quote, this film is most notable for the grand sets that recall 15th century Paris, as well as Lon Chaney's performance and spectacular makeup as a tortured bell ringer. Now, what it also doesn't mention is also Chaney's athletics. He's just incredible. And there were two Lon Chaneys, too. Lon Chaney Sr., Lon Chaney Jr. Lon Chaney Jr. was notable for a lot of things. He followed his father into the monster business, so to speak, and he is especially known as the original Wolfman. This is Lon Chaney Sr., and he is unbelievable in this. And again, this is another case that if you think that they couldn't do much in these old movies, you really need to see this one as well as the other two. Now, the next movie I wanted to mention is most notable, less for the movie than for the cleavage, and that is The Outlaw, which was done by Howard Hughes, and practically starred Jane Russell's cleavage. It was extremely controversial at the time. People said, oh, you can't do that, you can't show that, and you can see by the picture here. And it's a Western, and basically I'm not going to say much about it, except that Sheriff Pat Garrett and Doc Holliday and Billy the Kid and Jane Russell. I forget what her character's name is, but it's definitely worth seeing. Another movie is Rain, and Rain is a 1932 South Seas film, and it stars Joan Crawford as prostitute Sadie Thompson and Walter Houston as a conflicted missionary who wants to reform Sadie, but whose own morals start decaying. Now, one of the things that's interesting about this movie is this is actually a remake of an earlier movie by Gloria Swanson. It was called Sadie Thompson. And then there was a heavily sanitized version called Miss Sadie Thompson in 1953, starring Rita Hayworth. But, you know, they had the Hays Code come in then, and people couldn't make movies like this anymore that really showed, that were really gritty. Next is McClintock. Now, this is a 1963 comedy western starring John Wayne, Maureen O'Hara, and Yvonne DiCarlo. And this is hardly a politically correct movie, but basically what it is, it's a Western version of Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew. And I think it's very funny, even if it is not exactly politically correct. I mean, take a look at the picture. Next is Little Shop of Horrors. This was the original from 1960, where you have the nerd guy working in the plant shop, flower shop, and he grows this spectacular little plant that he names, is it Little Audrey, I think? Forgot to write that down. Who turns out to be quite literally a man-eater. And Little Shop of Horrors was later made into a musical, and then they made a film of that musical. One thing that people often point out is there was this young fellow who was making, I don't know if it was his film debut, but it was definitely one of his first films, and this young fellow's name was Jack Nicholson, and he plays a masochistic dental patient. The more pain, the better. Another movie worth seeing is Algiers. Algiers is a 1938 drama, and it stars Charles Boyer and Hedy Lamarr, and this takes place in Algiers. And this is sort of a precursor to Casablanca, and Boyer is a thief who escaped from France after his latest heist, and he's hanging out in the Kasbah. And this is where that phrase, "take me to the Kasbah," comes from. But it's a very, it's a really good movie, and I think you might like it. Hedy Lamarr is drop dead gorgeous, and nerds everywhere know of Hedy Lamarr because she was a genius who basically designed the systems that we all are living with today that allow us to do things like unlock our car from a distance and use the internet. I'm not going to go into that because I could spend hours talking about that. And last, for at least this group, is a movie that I probably will put up later, and it's called Greed. And this is a monumental, brilliant movie. And if you're a student of human nature or a film, you need to see this. And I'm actually going to read from Wikipedia here. Greed is a 1924 American silent film directed by Erich von Stroheim and based on the 1899 novel McTeague by naturalist writer Frank Norris. And a little aside here, you should look up Frank Norris, very interesting fellow. Back to Wikipedia. It stars Gibson Gowland as McTeague, Zasu Pitts as his wife Trina, and Jean Hersholt as McTeague's friend and eventual enemy, Marcus Schuler. In the film, McTeague, a San Francisco dentist, marries his best friend Marcus's girlfriend, Trina, who shortly afterwards wins the lottery and gets $5,000. Again, an aside, stop and think about what $5,000 would have been worth back in 1924. Okay, back to the Wikipedia. Out of jealousy, Marcus informs authorities that McTeague has been practicing dentistry without a license, and McTeague and Trina become impoverished. While living in squalor, McTeague degenerates into a violent alcoholic, and Trina becomes obsessed with her gold coins, refusing to spend any of them, despite how poor she and her husband become. Eventually, McTeague murders Trina for the gold and runs away to Death Valley. Marcus pursues McTeague and catches up to him in Death Valley for the film's final sequence. Now, this film was originally over 8 hours long, but it was edited against von Stroheim's wishes to about 2.5 hours, and unfortunately, the full length of the film has been lost. This is as I said, it's a monumental and brilliant film, and I think it's something that everyone should see once in their life. And most people tend to know who Zasu Pitts was, tend to think of her as a comedian, and she was. She was fantastic. This is not a comedic role at all, and she's brilliant. Anyway, that's about it. So if there's anything that you'd like me to put up next, please let me know. And if there's anything out there that you know of that you'd like me to put up, period, please let me know. I think I kind of like the idea of just having these lists. I'll eventually put playlists with different kinds of movies up as a place that people can go to watch and see old movies. Anyway, thanks. Bye.